Russians, cyber crimes, and wiretaps, all the characters and plot twists you might associate with a James Bond movie. But today, they were the central themes of testimony by the FBI director about the basic tenets of our democracy. James Comey was called to Capitol Hill by the House Intelligence Committee to shed light on how the Russian government might have tried to manipulate the presidential election in Donald Trump's favor.
That includes investigating the nature of any links between individuals associated with the Trump campaign and the Russian government, and whether there was any coordination between the campaign and Russia's efforts. As with any counterintelligence investigation, this will also include an assessment of whether any crimes were committed.
Also on the docket, the president's barrage of tweets earlier this month, the ones in which he accused President Obama of wiretapping Trump Tower. He then doubled down early this morning, attacking the intelligence community in a series of, yes, tweets. James Clapper and others stated there is no evidence POTUS colluded with Russia. The story is fake news and everyone knows it. And in another, the real story that Congress, the FBI, and all others should be looking into the leaking of classified information must find leaker now, Donald Trump tweeted. Comey joined many Republicans on Capitol Hill and shot down Trump's unsubstantiated claims.
With respect to the president's tweets about alleged wiretapping directed at him by the prior administration, I have no information that supports those tweets, and we have looked carefully inside the FBI. The Department of Justice has asked me to share with you that the answer is the same for the Department of Justice and all its components. The Department has no information that supports those tweets.
Late this afternoon, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer put his spin on today's hearing.
Following this testimony, it's clear that nothing has changed. Senior Obama intelligence officials have gone on record to confirm that there is no evidence of a Trump-Russia collusion.
But there were no responses on any questions related to wiretaps. Republicans throughout the day, like Trump's tweets, put the focus on finding whoever is leaking information. Comey did state that leaks of classified information should be prosecuted. Joining me to discuss a wild day in Congress are two former U.S. attorneys here in Boston. Donald Stern was appointed by President Clinton. Good to see you. Frank McNamara was picked by Ronald Reagan. Nice to see you too, Frank. Frank, let me start with you. DOJ today said no wiretap. NSA said no wiretap. FBI said no wiretap. Is it not time for the guy you supported, Donald Trump, to say, I was wrong, I apologize, let's move on?
Wiretapping is a subset of ELINT, electronic surveillance. Nobody said that there hasn't been any electronic surveillance.
So you don't think they rule out everything today?
I don't think they have ruled out everything. And you remember, not that tweets are a high-definitional medium, but Trump did put the word wiretap in quotes.
Once he did,
and I suspect he is thinking of things that go beyond Trump Tower and that go beyond the mere wiretap. He never used the word ordered either.
When you watched this testimony today, or saw it a little later, Don Stern, did you get the sense that they were ruling out anything, including the kinds of things that Frank McNamara is talking about?
I think it's pretty clear they're ruling out any court-ordered wiretap, any illegal wiretap.
They also said the Brits, by the way, the head of the NSA said the Brits had nothing to do with that other rumor.
And I think they ruled out, as I understand the testimony, any direct effort to use electronic surveillance on Trump or the Trump campaign or Trump Tower. Now, what is certainly possible is that somebody got picked up on a electronic surveillance of a third party, let's say hypothetically the Russian ambassador.
Like the General Flynn situation.
Right, exactly. So that's certainly possible, but that's far different than saying the president ordered a wiretap or any electronic surveillance of Trump or the Trump campaign.
And by the way, other than Judge Napolitano or whatever, I mean, the one thing we will agree upon is Donald Trump has absolutely no evidence that Barack Obama in any way participated in a decision to wiretap or surveil anything.
If he has it, he hasn't shown it. He has used the word ordered. And interestingly,
no evidence of that either, though, right?
Well, we don't. The investigation continues, as we used to say, Don. But what it's interesting is that in President Obama's response, he used the word ordered and said that he never ordered any wiretap.
Does the investigation continue? So we'll get to the Russian connection thing. On the wiretap, what's left?
I suspect President Obama used the word ordered because he wasn't aware of whatever might have been happening in the in the Justice Department, or et cetera.
So he's only speaking for what
he's
might...
responding to what he's capable of knowing, which is he never ordered. In fact, as Director Comey said, the President of the United States doesn't have the authority to, quote, order a wiretap.
You know, it was not a surprise today to hear James Comey say what he said about the wiretapping, because we had all read what the New York Times suggested he was saying to the Department of Justice a few weeks ago. Please say this is all BS. What was at least a bit of a surprise, Don, was that he admitted that there was some investigation into possible, unproven, possible collusion between the Russians and the Trumpians vis-a-vis the election. Would he have made that, and he said it was unusual, but these are unusual circumstances, would he have made that admission had he not taken so much crap for the Hillary Clinton thing?
I think probably not. And I don't think it's a question of taking crap. I think he would not have made that statement, I think. Today, but for the fact that he dug himself into a very deep hole in July, and even going into the kind of detail about the investigation, after he said, we're not recommending prosecution, but here are all the details. And then, as you recall, a week or two before the election, he then said that there was a investigation of an email server.
The Anthony Weiner thing?
Which turned out to be much to do about nothing. What is astounding to me, Jim, is that what I understand the White House, for example, is basically saying it's only an investigation, don't draw any conclusions. Now, I may be wrong about this, but I sort of remember candidate Trump saying there was an investigation of Hillary Clinton, and we need to draw a lot of conclusions about that.
How about that?
Well, it's true. He did say that. And
so he's being hoisted on his own wiretap or whatever.
What I find interesting, if I may prescind from the micro to the macro.
Sure.
Everyone knows, starting with the family of Tsar Nicholas, that the Soviet Union has been interested in subversion and interference and all kinds of things. They've been doing it for 100 years.
Well, no one's questioning that. Even Donald Trump admitted they attempted to influence the election. The question is, was there any collusion?
There is no evidence that I have seen. Perhaps you have, Don, or perhaps you have, Jim. I haven't seen as we say, a scintilla of evidence that there was any collusion between anyone in the Trump campaign and Soviet operatives.
Well, I haven't been watching Judge Napolitano the last few days.
But the larger point, Jim, is the reason Americans are concerned with this is because we do not want to see our leader destabilized. But the Russians must be laughing at us now because everything that happens is destabilizing the leader who's going to be negotiating against Putin when the time comes.
You know, what's the what are you laughing at?
Well, because I think the single most destabilizing comment by a sitting president of the United States that I can remember is President Trump tweeting that his predecessor, President Obama, wiretapped him without any evidence whatsoever. That's what they must be laughing about.
What's the standard for James Comey to stand up and say, yes, we're doing this investigation? What's the threshold? What do they have to know in the FBI for them to say publicly we're doing an investigation? Just that there are allegations, that they have some evidence? What is it?
Well, there are two issues. One is what's the threshold to commence a criminal investigation? And you have to have something. You have to have some basis to do that. You can't just sort of throw a dart at a dartboard and say we want to commence an investigation. They clearly have that basis. And then the second question is, when do you go public with that? And the short answer to that, as Frank knows, is almost never. I mean, almost never do you publicly discuss an investigation while it's ongoing.
So does that mean there has to be some there, even if it doesn't rise to a certain level?
It doesn't. No. I think the Director Comey said, look, I dug myself into a hole. I talked about Hillary Clinton. There is an intense public interest in this. I'm going to at least acknowledge that there is an investigation. But look, whether there's evidence, I think Frank is right about this, whether there is evidence at the end of the day to support some of the allegations that have been made. I don't know. You don't know. Frank doesn't know.
One thing about the leaks for a second. I know that's what the Republicans and the president want to talk about. And by the way, they should talk about it at the same time these other things going on. Is there ever a circumstance where there are leaks from the intelligence community where people like you or an FBI director find out who's behind those links? That's aberrational.
Well, Scooter Libby.
But it's rare. Is it? It's really rare.
It's very rare.
Okay.
It's very rare even to commence investigations. Speaking
of well, I don't know if it's rare at all. When Preet Bharara, who was the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, wouldn't resign and then was fired the other day, he tweeted out, I didn't resign, etc. There are reports in the last 24 hours 48 hours, that he was in the middle of an investigation of Tom Price, former member of Congress, now Secretary of Health and Human Services, for possible illegal activity in terms of his behavior as a congressman vis-a-vis stocks that he owned in certain health-related industries. Is it odd to, I know it's not odd to dump U.S. attorneys when there's a switch in power. Is it odd that when there's an investigation of somebody who works for the man who's now the president, for you to dump a U.S. attorney who's in the middle of an investigation of one of your own people?
The hidden question, I think, the planted axiom, is that by getting a new U.S. attorney, you're going to bring the bureaucracy to a screeching halt, and those investigations will wither on the vine.
That is what my next question was.
That doesn't happen. U.S. attorneys' offices, like most federal agencies, are bureaucracies. They have lawyers in them who are bureaucrats with law degrees.
But even when the next U.S. attorney is picked by the guy who is the boss of the person who was being investigated by the prior U.S. attorney?
My experience, and I might add, as a United States attorney who resigned as a result of fake news, I'll add that footnote.
We're going to get to that someday.
I'll add that footnote.
Yeah.
The momentum of the professional prosecutors inside a bureaucracy like the U.S. Attorney's Office, in my day, Don, I can't speak for yours, was such that the replacement of the guy at the top doesn't change
10 seconds. You agree with that?
I think it's unlikely that any change of the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York will derail any ongoing credible investigation that's going on now.
Don, nice to see you. Appreciate it. Frank,
Nice to see you.
Appreciate it.